I wear guilt like a second skin. The crown found me before I could refuse it. I loved where I should not have loved, and blood remembers what the heart tries to forget. Some inherit power, others inherit the consequences. The palace wakes before the sun, always alert, never kind. Stone corridors breathe old judgment into every step I take. I learned early how to stand slightly aside, how to be present without being chosen. Days passed in ritual, measured bows, quiet meals, eyes that slid past me without pause. I told myself this distance was safety. I told myself love could remain unseen, uncounted. But lineage is a patient watcher, and even silence leaves a trace. I was not born to the crown. That truth lived in me long before I understood what a throne was. In the earliest mornings, when the palace still breathed like a sleeping animal, I would walk the eastern gallery alone. The marble floor was always cold. The tapestries watched without judgment. I learned then how silence could weigh more than speech. It pressed against my ribs. It taught me restraint. I was the second son, spare to a spare, a name spoken politely, never urgently. My elder brother carried the future in his stride, in the tilt of his chin, in the way the courtiers leaned toward him, as if drawn by an unseen tide. I followed at a respectful distance, trained to bow before a destiny that was never meant to include me. And yet, guilt does not ask permission. My father ruled with a quiet authority that made men lower their eyes. He was not cruel. That would have been easier to survive. He was deliberate. He believed in bloodlines the way priests believe in prayer. When he looked at me, there was affection, yes, but also measurement, as if he were always weighing what I was against what I should never become. The palace taught us discipline early, lessons before dawn, sword drills until the arms trembled, history recited until the tongue numbed. They told us the stories of our ancestors as warnings disguised as pride, brothers who betrayed brothers, sons who dethroned fathers, queens who smiled while sharpening knives in their sleeves. I listened carefully, too carefully. It was during one of those long afternoons, when the tutors had grown tired and the guards had relaxed their watch, that I met her. She was not meant to be in the inner garden. That space belonged to royalty alone, a controlled wilderness of trimmed hedges and white roses, cultivated to look effortless. I remember the sound first, laughter, unrestrained, human. It cut through the rigid air like a blade through silk. I followed it. She stood by the fountain, shoes abandoned, skirts gathered in her hands, letting the cold water run over her bare feet. When she saw me, her laughter stopped, not from fear but surprise. She bowed too late and not deeply enough. "I beg your pardon, my lord," she said, still smiling. I should have reprimanded her. I should have turned away. Instead, I asked her name. That was how doom entered my life without announcing itself. She was the daughter of a lesser noble house, one loyal to the crown but forever distant from its inner circle. She had been raised to serve, not to stand beside. Her presence in the garden was an error, easily forgiven. My presence there, lingering, was not. We spoke only briefly that day, about the roses, about how water softened stone if given enough time, about nothing that mattered and everything that would. From that moment on, the palace felt altered. Corridors grew narrower, doors closed more softly. I became aware of how often I was watched, how easily a rumor could bloom. We found each other in fragments of time, a glance during court, a pause on a staircase, words exchanged beneath tapestries heavy with the weight of dead kings. Our conversations were cautious, edged with restraint, but our silences were reckless. Joy crept in quietly, dangerous joy, the kind that makes you forget where you stand. With her, I laughed, truly laughed. Not the polite curve of lips expected of a prince, but the unguarded sound I barely recognized as my own. She teased me for my formality. I teased her for her defiance. For a while, the world allowed it. but blood remembers. My brother began to look at me differently, not with suspicion, but with something closer to curiosity. He had always been kind to me, protective even, yet kindness can blind a man to the harm he causes without intending it. "You walk as if burdened," he said once, as we trained together in the practice yard. Sweat darkened his collar, the sun caught in his hair like fire. "You should be grateful. You are free." Free. The word struck deeper than any blade. That night, I could not sleep. The palace whispered around me, walls creaking with secrets older than my name. I thought of her, of the way her hand had brushed mine in passing, light as a breath, heavy as a vow. I knew what the court would say if they knew. I knew what my father would decide. Love was a luxury reserved for those whose blood had already secured their place in history. Mine had not, and still, I did nothing to stop it. The first true fracture came during a feast. The hall was alive with music, with candlelight glinting off gold and crystal. Lords drank too much, ladies smiled too brightly, alliances shifted with every course. I sat at my assigned place, far enough from the throne to be ornamental, close enough to be seen. She was there, serving wine. Our eyes met across the table just for a moment. That was enough. I did not notice the watching gaze until it was too late. A cousin, distant but ambitious. A man whose loyalty could be purchased with the right information. His smile lingered on me, longer than courtesy required. Guilt bloomed in my chest. Not for myself, but for her. Later that evening, as the guests drifted away and the hall emptied, I found her in the shadowed corridor near the western stairs. She looked frightened, not of me, but of the palace itself. "They are beginning to speak," she whispered. I wanted to tell her we would be careful, that it would pass, that love could survive discretion. Instead, I said nothing. That was my first failure. Days later, my father summoned me. His chamber smelled of ink and old wood. He did not look up when I entered. The pause stretched. He always used silence as a tool. "You are restless," he said finally. I did not deny it. "There are expectations," he continued, "not only for kings." His eyes met mine then, sharp, knowing. He said nothing of her, nothing of rumors, yet the warning was clear. I left the chamber with my hands shaking. That night, I stood alone on the battlements, watching the city lights flicker beyond the walls. The world beyond the palace lived and loved without consequence. Inside, every breath was weighed. I understood then that blood was not merely lineage, it was a sentence. And somewhere deep within me, beneath the guilt and fear, something darker stirred. A thought I did not dare name. If the crown was never meant to be mine, why did it feel so heavy already? The days that followed carried a strange tension, as if the palace itself were holding its breath. I began to notice how duty insinuates itself into every corner of thought. It does not arrive as command, but as habit. I woke earlier, I spoke less. I listened more carefully to what was not being said. My father's warning echoed without sound, shaping my choices before I made them. I tried to distance myself from her. That resolve lasted 3 days. On the 4th, I found her in the old library wing, the one few courtiers used because its windows faced the river and let in too much damp air. She stood among the shelves with a bundle of ledgers pressed to her chest, her brow furrowed in concentration. When she saw me, relief softened her face before caution reclaimed it. "You should not be here," she said quietly. Neither of us moved. "I could say the same," I replied. She smiled despite herself. That smile undid me more efficiently than any accusation ever could. We spoke of small things at first, books she liked, stories she remembered from childhood. She told me she once believed the palace was hollow, that kings and queens were statues animated only for ceremony. She laughed at herself for it, but there was no mockery in her voice. "And now?" I asked. "Now I know it is worse. she said. "You are all too real." I should have ended the conversation then. Instead, I asked what frightened her most. She hesitated, that nothing I do will ever truly belong to me. The words lodged in my chest. They were too close to my own thoughts. Our love did not grow as poetry describes. It did not bloom in safety. It tightened. It hid. It learned to survive on moments stolen between obligations. Each meeting carried joy, yes, but also an undercurrent of dread that sharpened every touch and every word. I began to dream of futures that could not exist. In those dreams, I was no longer a prince, only a man. We lived beyond the walls, unnamed and unnoticed. There were no councils, no banners, no bloodlines. I woke from those dreams with a grief that felt like mourning something already dead. My brother noticed the change before anyone else. "You are thinner," he said one evening as we walked the south corridor together, "and quieter." I told him the truth as safely as I could, that I was weary, that court life pressed upon me. He laughed, clapping a hand on my shoulder. "You have the easiest burden among us. No one expects you to be unbreakable." He did not see how expectation itself can suffocate, even when it appears merciful. He spoke often of his future reign, of reforms he wished to make, of alliances he intended to strengthen. He trusted me with these thoughts as one might trust a mirror, something that reflects but does not act. I listened. I nodded. I said nothing of the fear that crept in whenever he spoke of heirs, the bloodline. It was always there, threaded through every conversation, every decision. Our family tree was not merely recorded. It was worshipped. Deviation was treated as treason to history itself. The council began to summon me more frequently. At first, I assumed it was coincidence. Then I noticed how their questions lingered, how they asked my opinion not as formality, but with interest. One of them, Lord Harrow, studied me as if I were a puzzle newly discovered. He spoke to me of succession laws, of contingency plans should illness or misfortune strike the heir. His tone was scholarly, detached. I felt ill. I did not tell my brother of these conversations. I told myself it was to protect him. In truth, it was because speaking them aloud would give them weight. Meanwhile, whispers grew bolder. Servants averted their eyes when she passed. Some smiled too politely. Others did not bother. I heard my name murmured once, followed by hers, stitched together in a way that made my skin burn. I went to her that night, reckless with fear. "We must be careful," I told her. "More careful than we have been." Her eyes darkened. "Are we not careful already?" The question cut deeper than any reproach. I wanted to promise her safety. I wanted to promise her a future. Instead, I asked her to endure more silence. That was my second failure. Joy, when it returned, was sharp and brief. We laughed over shared memories, over imagined travels we would never take. Those moments were bright enough to blind me to the fact that each one tightened the snare around us. The palace celebrated a minor victory that winter, a border dispute resolved without bloodshed. There was music again, and wine, and false ease. I watched my brother accept praise with grace, watched my father observe him with pride. I felt love for them both, genuine, aching love. That love made my guilt unbearable, because part of me had begun to wonder, not whether my brother would fail, but what would happen if he did. The thought horrified me when it first surfaced. I buried it beneath layers of loyalty and shame. But it returned, persistent, wearing the mask of reason, the council's interest, the laws, the contingencies. Bloodline was not only inheritance, it was insurance. And I was suddenly very aware of how often eyes found me in crowded rooms. I confronted my father once, indirectly. "Is a man defined solely by the order of his birth?" I asked, during a quiet meal. He regarded me for a long moment. "A man is defined by whether he accepts his place." I understood then that love to him was submission to design. That night, she told me she had been approached. A lady of rank had spoken to her kindly, too kindly, suggesting opportunities elsewhere. A distant estate, a generous dowry if she were to marry suitably. They are offering to erase me, she said. Rage flared in me, swift and dangerous, not at her, at myself. This was the cost of my hesitation. I wanted to fight, to refuse, to claim her openly. Yet I saw, with terrifying clarity, what that would mean. Scandal, disgrace. Her destruction dressed up as justice. Love versus duty ceased to be an abstract struggle. It became a blade pressed to the throat. She took my hands then. "Tell me the truth," she said. "If you could choose without consequence, would you?" I could not answer. The silence between us was not empty. It was filled with everything I could not give. She nodded, as if my failure to speak had confirmed what she already knew. "I do not regret loving you," she said, "but I will not beg for a place that was never meant for me." She left before I could stop her. That was the night I understood that destiny does not wait for consent. I walked the palace until dawn, my thoughts unraveling. The crown I had never sought began to loom as both threat and refuge. If power was the language of survival here, then power might be the only way to protect what I loved. The realization terrified me. Because once such a thought takes root, it does not easily die. The council chamber had always unsettled me. It was not the size of it, nor the carved table polished by generations of anxious hands. It was the way truth bent there. Words were never spoken for what they meant, but for how they might be remembered later. When they summoned me again, I went without protest. Lord Harrow was already seated, fingers steepled, his expression one of practiced patience. The others followed soon after, men of age and influence, men who survived by anticipating collapse. They spoke first of routine matters, trade routes, border patrols, a treaty that required delicate phrasing. I answered when addressed, careful, restrained. I gave them nothing that could be misinterpreted. Then Harrow leaned back. "Your brother grows weary," he said casually. "The burden of preparation weighs heavily on him." I kept my gaze steady. "He has always borne it well." "Indeed," another councillor murmured, "but the body is not iron, nor the spirit." There it was, the first true incision. They spoke then of succession laws, of ancient precedents rarely invoked, of kings who had named alternatives when fate proved unkind. They did not speak of illness, yet it hovered over the table like an uninvited guest. I felt a slow chill settle in my chest. "You speak as if misfortune is inevitable," I said. "We speak as if we are responsible," Harrow replied. "The realm cannot afford uncertainty." Their eyes turned to me in unison. In that moment, I understood that I was no longer merely a spare. I was a solution. I left the chamber with my jaw clenched, my thoughts in disarray. This was not ambition. It was contingency, a subtle distinction that allowed them to sleep at night. My brother greeted me later with warmth, oblivious to the quiet calculations unfolding behind his back. He spoke of a hunt planned for the coming week, of a chance to escape ceremony and breathe freely. "You should come," he said. "You brood too much." I agreed, because refusal would have been suspicious. The hunt was meant to be simple, a controlled show of vigor. Horses, hounds, laughter echoing through the trees. Yet even there, politics lingered. I noticed how the guards were positioned, how routes were cleared and others left narrow, how the captain rode closer to my brother than usual. Precautions, I told myself, only precautions. Still, the unease did not leave me. That night, alone in my chambers, I considered the shape of my life with brutal honesty. If I stepped away now, if I abandoned the palace, the bloodline, the expectations, what would remain of me? A man with no land, no name worth protecting. A man whose love would still be hunted, because the court does not forgive those who walk away. It erases them. and erasure is rarely clean. I sought her out again, driven by something between desperation and resolve. She was preparing to leave. I could see it in the way her belongings were already reduced, the way she spoke of elsewhere as if rehearsing belief. "They will not stop," she said, "whether I stay or go." "I know," I replied. I wanted to tell her of the council, of their interest, of the dangerous thought that had begun to take shape in me. I said none of it. I did not trust myself to speak without crossing a line I could never retreat from. Instead, I asked her to wait. "Wait for what?" she asked softly. "For me to become someone who can choose." The hope in her eyes was fleeting, but it was there, enough to damn me. The hunt began under a pale sky. We rode deep into the forest, my brother leading with easy confidence. He was in good spirits, teasing me, recalling childhood mischief. For a time, I allowed myself to relax. The laughter felt real, familiar. Then the ground changed. The path narrowed unexpectedly, forcing the group to stretch thin. I noticed it too late. The hounds scattered. A shout rang out ahead. Chaos followed. A horse reared, another slipped. I heard my brother cry out, sharp with pain. When I reached him, he was on the ground, his leg twisted unnaturally. The captain was already shouting orders, faces pale. It was an accident. That was the word they used. A loose stone, a startled animal. But as I knelt beside my brother, holding his hand while he fought to remain composed, I felt the weight of unseen eyes. This was what contingency looked like. Back at the palace, the healers worked quickly. They assured us the injury would heal, but slowly, months, perhaps longer. He would not ride, he would not train, his preparations would stall. The council convened within hours. This time, they did not bother with subtlety. "The realm cannot pause," Harrow said. "We must ensure continuity." I wanted to scream that my brother still breathed, that he still lived. Instead, I listened as they outlined temporary authorities, provisional roles, duties that would fall to me. I accepted none of them openly, yet I did not refuse. My father said little. That frightened me more than any rebuke. He watched me with an intensity I had never known, as if reassessing an old calculation. That night, I stood once more on the battlements, the city spread below in fragile order. I thought of how easily order could be disrupted. A fall, a whisper, a decision made in the name of protection. Guilt pressed on me from all sides. I had not caused my brother's injury, I knew that, and yet part of me recognized opportunity in the fracture. That recognition sickened me. I visited my brother often. He bore his pain with grace, speaking of recovery, of patience. He thanked me for shouldering responsibilities while he healed. "You are my strength," he said once. "I trust you." The words cut deeper than accusation ever could. The court's tone shifted. Where once I had been addressed politely, now I was consulted, deferred to, watched. Power moved quietly, like water seeking the lowest point. And through it all, her absence grew louder. She had delayed her departure, honoring my request. But time was not on our side. Each day increased the risk to her. Each day, the cost of my inaction rose. I understood then the cruel genius of the bloodline. It did not force choices, it removed alternatives. To protect her, I would need influence. To gain influence, I would need acceptance. And acceptance would demand something terrible. The council sensed my hesitation. Lord Harrow came to me alone one evening, his voice low, conspiratorial. "There are moments," he said, "when a man must decide whether he is merely born or chosen." I did not respond. He smiled faintly. "The realm has a way of choosing, whether we agree or not." As he left, I felt the walls close in. My brother slept down the corridor, trusting. My father watched from the throne, weighing. The woman I loved waited on a promise I was no longer certain I could keep, and somewhere beneath it all, the crown, once distant and abstract, began to feel like a presence, patient. Winter arrived early that year, as if the land itself sensed what was coming. Snow fell before the harvest was fully gathered, thin at first, then relentless. Roads hardened, messages slowed. The palace closed inward, fires burning longer, conversations growing shorter and more guarded. War was not declared, but it was felt, in the way maps were unrolled more often, in the way messengers rode through the gates at night instead of day. The border victories celebrated weeks earlier began to unravel. A neighboring kingdom questioned the treaty's legitimacy, claiming it had been signed under duress. Skirmishes followed. Nothing official, nothing that demanded banners yet. But blood was spilled in places far from the throne, where names did not matter. The council met daily. My brother, confined to his chambers, listened to reports with clenched jaw and forced patience. He hated stillness. He hated being watched while others acted in his stead. I brought him updates each evening, careful to soften nothing, careful not to sound authoritative. "You speak like a king already," he said once, half smiling. I did not return the smile. My duties expanded without ceremony. I was sent to receive envoys, to inspect garrisons, to speak on behalf of the crown in matters deemed urgent but unofficial. Each task was presented as necessity, never ambition. Yet the result was the same. Men bowed lower. They listened more closely. I felt the shift in power not as triumph, but as pressure, an invisible hand at my back guiding me forward even when I stopped walking. The first true sign of war came with the messenger from the north. He arrived exhausted, horse-lathered, voice hoarse from riding without pause. His report was brief and devastating. Villages burned, militia scattered, an enemy force testing defenses, probing weaknesses. The council's response was immediate. Troops were to be mobilized quietly, supplies redirected, commanders recalled from leave, all of it done without public announcement to preserve calm. It was decided that I would oversee coordination. I objected, weakly. My brother argued in my favor, insisting the role should be his. The healers forbade it. His leg had not healed sufficiently. Any strain could cripple him permanently. My father ended the debate with a single sentence: "The realm cannot wait for bones to mend." That night, I did not sleep. I walked the corridors until my feet ached, past doors behind which decisions were being made without me, and others behind which my name was spoken too often. Every step felt like trespass. I went to her before dawn. She was awake, fully dressed, as if expecting me. There was no surprise in her eyes now, only resignation sharpened by resolve. "They will not let you remain half visible much longer," she said. "I see how they look at you." I told her of the north, of the villages, of the inevitability that was tightening around us. "If war comes," I said, "everything changes." "Everything has already changed," she replied. I wanted to take her hand. I did not. Touch had become dangerous. Even walls had ears. "Leave," I told her quietly. "Go while you still can." Pain crossed her face, but she did not argue. That hurt more than refusal would have. "And you?" she asked. I did not answer. She stepped closer then, breaking every rule we had learned to obey. Her voice did not tremble. "If you do this, if you walk further into their designs, promise me one thing." "What?" "Do not tell yourself you had no choice." She turned away before I could respond. That promise haunted me. The war, when it arrived in full, did so without ceremony. A formal declaration reached us at dawn, sealed in wax and arrogance. By noon the bells rang, not in alarm but in solemn rhythm, calling men to readiness. The city responded with a mix of fear and fervor. Shops closed, smithies burned through the night. Mothers watched sons march with faces carved from stone. I stood on the palace steps beside my father as banners were raised. For the first time, the people looked at me not as ornament, but as assurance. That look made my stomach turn. The council pressed for decisive action. Border fortresses were vulnerable. Commanders debated strategy, each with maps stained by old victories and older grudges. They asked my opinion more often than they asked my brother's. I gave careful answers, balanced, conservative. Still, the decisions bore my imprint. My brother confronted me after one such meeting, his temper finally breaking. "They are sidelining me," he said, "and you let them." "I am trying to hold the realm together," I replied, "by standing where I should be standing." The accusation was not cruel, that made it worse. "I never wanted this," I said. "That does not matter," he snapped. "Want has nothing to do with duty." The irony of the statement struck us both. He fell silent, breathing hard. After a moment, he softened. "I know you mean well. I trust you. I always have." Trust. Again. The War Council decided to send a delegation to negotiate under the guise of delaying tactics. It was dangerous. There was no guarantee of safe conduct. Someone of royal blood would be required to give the appearance of seriousness. My father volunteered me without hesitation. I saw it then, the calculation behind his eyes. If I succeeded, I would prove indispensable. If I failed, the bloodline would suffer a loss, but not the catastrophic one. I said nothing. The journey north was grim. Burned fields, abandoned homes, smoke clinging to the horizon like a warning. At night I lay awake listening to distant cries, unsure whether they were real or imagined. The enemy received us politely. Their leader was younger than I expected, his confidence sharpened by recent gains. He spoke of grievances, of historical slights, of borders drawn by dead men. His arguments were reasonable. That frightened me more than threats would have. Negotiations dragged on for days. I delayed where I could, conceded where I must. I felt myself learning the language of power with unsettling ease. How to yield without surrendering, how to promise without committing. When we returned, the council praised my restraint. Word spread quickly. In the weeks that followed, my name was spoken in taverns and training yards. Songs began to circulate, unofficial, half-whispered, of the prince who stood firm when war came early. I asked them to stop. They laughed and said such things could not be controlled. My brother grew quieter, more distant. He still trusted me, but something had shifted. A gap formed where certainty once lived. My father summoned me again. "You are becoming necessary," he said. "Do not mistake that for affection." I nodded. "You must be careful," he continued. "Men will shape stories around you. Some will wish to hasten what fate has not yet demanded." "Do you?" I asked. He studied me for a long time. "I wish the realm to survive." That was all he said. The final blow came not from the council, nor from the enemy, but from a single document delivered in secret. An amended succession charter, provisional, conditional, legal. It named me as regent should my brother be deemed unfit to rule during wartime. Unfit was undefined. The council expected my response. I held the parchment in my hands, feeling its weight more keenly than any sword. Accepting it would stabilize command. Refusing it would signal weakness, division, vulnerability. In war, vulnerability is invitation. I thought of my brother's trust, of my father's silence, of her final request. Do not tell yourself you had no choice. Outside my window, the city prepared for siege. Inside, the crown waited. The parchment did not leave my hands for hours. I sat alone, the fire dying low, reading the same lines until the words lost meaning and became accusation. Regent, provisional authority, wartime necessity. language designed to sound temporary, to feel reversible. Lies made of ink. I told myself I would not decide that night. By dawn, I knew that was already a lie. The palace stirred slowly as if reluctant to face the day. Snow pressed against the windows, muting sound, smothering color. I dressed without calling for attendance. I needed no witnesses to what I was becoming. When I went to my brother, he was awake, staring at the ceiling, his leg bound and elevated like a cruel reminder of flesh's weakness. He smiled when he saw me. That smile nearly broke me. "You look as though you have not slept," he said. "I have not." "Come," he replied. "Sit. Tell me what troubles you. I am tired of being protected from truth." The invitation was sincere. That was the cruelty of it. I sat. I spoke of the war, of supply shortages, of commanders arguing in circles. All true, all safe. I did not speak of the charter. He listened carefully, then sighed. "They should listen to you more. You see the shape of things." I closed my eyes briefly. "They already do." He did not notice the warning in my tone. "I never doubted you," he continued. "If I fall short, I know you would hold the line until I could stand again." Hold the line. That was how they would name it. Not usurpation, not betrayal, stewardship. I left him with words of reassurance I barely remember speaking. The council convened before noon. The parchment lay before them, already unrolled, as if my consent were assumed. Lord Harrow watched me with a patience sharpened by confidence. "This will prevent confusion," he said. "It will ensure unity of command." "And if I refuse?" I asked. A pause, calculated. "Then the realm will question why." That was the moment my chest tightened, not with fear, but with something darker, anger perhaps, or grief finally shedding its civility. I asked for time. They granted me the courtesy of a single day. I went to her. She was packing. The room looked smaller with its bareness exposed. Every removed object felt like a verdict already passed. She did not stop when I entered. She did not need to look at me to know why I had come. "They will make you regent," she said quietly. I did not ask how she knew. "They say it will stabilize the realm," I replied. "And will it?" "Yes." The word tasted like ash. She turned then, her eyes clear, wounded, resolved. "And you?" I had no answer. She approached me slowly as if I might vanish. When she touched my face, I nearly wept, not because of love, but because of what love was demanding of me. "You are breaking," she said. "I am surviving." She shook her head. "No, you are learning how to live with the breaking." I told her what accepting the charter would mean: power, protection, a shield against those who wished her erased quietly. I did not frame it as temptation. I framed it as necessity. "And me?" she asked. "Where do I stand in this future?" I hesitated. That hesitation destroyed what little remained. "You would be safer," I said, "at a distance, for now." "For now," she repeated. "Until when?" I did not answer. She stepped back, her expression no longer pleading. "You speak as they do now, in postponements, in abstractions." I reached for her hand. She did not pull away, but she did not return the gesture. "I love you," I said. The words felt fragile, insufficient. "I know," she replied. "That is why this hurts." She told me she would leave at dawn. I did not stop her. That was my final failure. The night collapsed around me. I walked until my legs trembled, through halls that had witnessed centuries of oaths and regrets. Portraits of kings watched as I passed. Some were remembered as heroes, others as tyrants. All had believed themselves necessary. In the chapel, I knelt without prayer. Faith had nothing to offer me, only memory. I remembered being a boy, trailing after my brother, believing loyalty was enough. I remembered laughing with her by the fountain, believing love might carve a space for itself within stone. I saw now how naive that had been. At dawn, I watched from the western tower as her carriage passed through the gates. It did not slow. She did not look back. Something inside me went quiet. The council reconvened. I signed the charter. The quill did not shake. That frightened me more than if it had. Word spread quickly. Regent, protector of the realm, temporary authority vested by law and necessity. The language was soothing. The effect was immediate. Commanders deferred. Orders flowed through me. Messengers bowed lower. Even my father inclined his head slightly when he addressed me in council. My brother was told gently, carefully, as if delivering news of weather rather than fate. He stared at me for a long time after the others had left. "So," he said, "it has come to this. I will step aside the moment you are able," I said. "I believe you think that," he replied. The distance between us widened, silent and irreversible. War demanded action. I authorized troop movements. I approved rations that left some regions desperate and others defended. I signed orders that sent men to die whose names I would never know. Each decision was justified. Each one carved something out of me. Reports arrived daily, victories, losses, numbers that replaced faces. I learned to read them without flinching. The realm stabilized. I did not. At night I dreamed of blood soaking into snow, of her voice calling my name, not in anger, but disappointment, of my brother standing whole again, looking at me as one looks at a stranger who wears a familiar face. Joy did not visit me anymore, not even briefly. There was only function. One evening, as fires burned late in the council chamber, Lord Harrow remarked almost admiringly, "You have taken to power as if born for it." The comment struck like a blow. I realized then that the crown was no longer waiting. It was settling, not on my head, but in my bones. I had wanted power to protect what I loved. I had lost her anyway. I had wanted authority to preserve loyalty. I had fractured the bond that mattered most. Guilt was no longer a feeling. It was a structure I lived inside. And still, the war was not over, nor was the cost finished revealing itself. The message arrived sealed in black. It was delivered not through official channels, but by a rider who refused to give his name and vanished before questions could be asked. The seal bore the sigil of the northern commander, but the wax was cracked, reapplied in haste. I broke it alone. The report was concise, brutal. My brother had been targeted, not on the battlefield. In his chambers, a failed attempt. Poison introduced into his medicine, diluted enough to delay suspicion, strong enough to weaken. The healers claimed it was contamination. The report did not. The letter ended with a single line written in a different hand. The council is divided. Some believe the risk has passed. Others believe the risk is you. I felt nothing at first. No shock, no fear. Only a cold clarity that settled with terrifying calm. Someone had decided that the bloodline required pruning. I summoned the council immediately. They arrived in varying states of composure, some indignant at the hour, others too eager. I watched them closely as they took their seats, noting who met my gaze and who avoided it. I placed the letter on the table. "Explain," I said. Confusion followed, then denial, then outrage, carefully performed. Lord Harrow was the last to speak. "If this is true," he said slowly, "then the realm faces a grave internal threat." "Indeed," I replied, "which is why I will ask this only once. Who benefits from my brother's death?" Silence. I stood. "Do not insult me with innocence. Someone here authorized this or ensured it would not be prevented." A younger councillor shifted uncomfortably. An older one stared at his hands. Harrow finally spoke. "You misunderstand the nature of necessity." That was his mistake. "I understand it perfectly," I said. "You believe the realm must be safeguarded against weakness, against uncertainty, against sentiment." He did not deny it. "You believe that if my brother were to fade quietly, the transition would be smoother, legal, bloodless." Still, He did not deny it. "And you believe," I continued, "that I would accept this as unfortunate but practical?" Harrow met my eyes. "Would you not?" The question hung between us like a blade. In that moment, I saw everything with brutal clarity. The council's design, my father's calculations, the way I had been shaped step by step into inevitability, regent, protector, replacement. I had told myself I was preventing chaos. I was enabling murder. I dismissed the council without further word. That alone altered the balance of power. I felt it shift as they rose, uncertain, fearful now. Lord Harrow lingered. "You cannot undo what has begun," he said quietly. "If you resist this, you endanger the realm." "No," I replied. "If I allow it, I endanger its soul." He smiled thinly. "Souls do not defend borders." "Neither do corpses," I said. "I had my brother moved that night, not quietly, not secretly, with full escort, with witnesses, with authority. He was placed under my direct protection, guarded by men whose loyalty I had tested in war, not politics." When he woke the next morning and saw me standing at the foot of his bed, his expression was wary. "They tell me there was an attempt," he said. "Yes." "And they tell me you stopped it." "Yes." He studied me for a long time. "Why do you look as though you have lost something?" "Because I have," I thought. "Because I'm about to lose more." I told him the truth, not pieces of it, not softened versions. I told him about the charter, about the council's intentions, about the contingency that had grown teeth. I told him about the poison. When I finished, the room was very still. "I trusted you," he said at last. "I know." "I trusted you to hold the line," he continued, "not to become it." The words were not shouted. They were not cruel. They were worse. They were accurate. "I never wanted your crown," I said. "I wanted to protect what was ours." "And in doing so," he replied, "you let them believe I was already gone." I had no defense. He turned his face away. "Leave me." I obeyed. That afternoon, I made my decision. I summoned the council again. This time, I did not sit. I stood at the head of the table, the charter in my hand. "You named me regent to preserve stability," I said. "I accept that burden." Relief flickered across several faces. "But you mistook obedience for alignment." The relief faded. "I will retain authority until the war's end," I continued. "Not because I crave it, but because I will not allow this realm to fracture under divided command." Harrow inclined his head slightly. "A wise course." "And when the war concludes," I said, "I will dissolve the provisional charter, publicly, irrevocably." Murmurs rose. "And I will present evidence," I went on, "of the attempted assassination of the heir. Names will be spoken, judgments will follow." Outrage erupted, denials, threats veiled as warnings. I raised my hand. "Any who resist this will be named complicit." The room fell silent. "You taught me necessity," I said. "Do not be surprised that I learned." Harrow stared at me with something like admiration. "You would burn the council to save one man. I would burn any structure that mistakes murder for governance." He laughed softly. "Then you are not fit to rule." "Good," I replied. "I have no intention of doing so." That night, orders were carried out swiftly. 2 councillors were detained. Another fled and was captured before dawn. Harrow resigned before arrest could reach him, vanishing into the same obscurity he had once condemned others to. The war reached its turning point within weeks, a decisive engagement at the river plains. I rode with the army, not as symbol, but as commander. Men fought harder when they believed the cost of their blood would not be bartered in council chambers. We won, not without loss, never without loss. When the enemy sued for peace, I dictated terms that ended the conflict without humiliation. Borders were redrawn carefully. Reparations were measured. Future wars postponed, if not prevented. I returned to the capital not to celebration, but to reckoning. The court waited. So did my father. "You have changed the course of succession," he said. "No," I replied. "I have preserved it." He regarded me with a mixture of pride and regret. "You could have kept it, the crown. The council would have bent." "Yes," I said, "and I would have lost whatever remains of myself." He did not argue. The day my brother stood again before the court, walking unaided, the room breathed as one. I stepped back deliberately, visibly, relinquishing the space I had occupied too long. I read the dissolution of the charter aloud. Every word felt like penance. When it was done, the crown returned fully to him. Applause followed, loyal, earnest, fragile. Later alone I felt the weight lift. But relief did not come, because power once touched leaves a residue, and because there was one truth still unspoken, one loss that victory could not redeem. I had chosen the realm over love, and no decree could undo that. The war ended, but the quiet that followed was not peace. It was absence. The court resumed its rituals with almost desperate precision. Councils met on schedule, banners were rehung, titles were spoken as if they had never trembled. Yet beneath the restored order lay a thinness, like ice after a thaw, intact but untrustworthy. I felt it most keenly in myself. When my authority ended, it did not leave cleanly. Men still looked to me before they looked to the throne. Guards hesitated, uncertain which command carried more weight. Even my brother, now king in full, occasionally turned to me mid-sentence, habit guiding him before memory intervened. Each time I stepped back, not dramatically, not publicly, just enough. The council had been reshaped, but not redeemed. New men filled old seats, their language softened, but their instincts remained. Power teaches quickly, and it does not forget its lessons. Trials followed. Those implicated in the attempt on my brother's life were named and judged. Evidence was laid bare. Confessions extracted, some sincere, others rehearsed. Sentences were pronounced with solemn care. Justice was served, and still something rotted beneath it. The people wanted clarity, heroes and villains, clean narratives. They praised my restraint, my sacrifice. They called me loyal, noble, essential. They did not see the nights I woke with my hands clenched, feeling again the weight of orders that sent men to die. They did not hear the echo of her voice in empty corridors. They did not understand that being right does not absolve you from what it costs. My brother tried to reach me. He invited me to dine with him as we once had, without ceremony, without witnesses. We spoke of trivial things at first, weather, reconstruction, trade. Eventually he set his cup down. "I do not know where to place you," he said. The honesty startled me. "You saved my life," he continued. "You saved the crown. And yet, when I look at you, I see a version of myself that frightens me. I accepted that without defense." "You saw what I might have become," I said, "or what you might still become if you are not careful." He nodded slowly. "And you?" "I saw what power demands," I replied, "and how easily it convinces you that the cost is reasonable." We sat in silence after that, not estranged, but altered. Brothers still. Never again simple. My father withdrew from public life soon after. Age caught up with him quickly once the crisis passed, as if purpose had been the only thing keeping him upright. Before he retreated fully, he summoned me one last time. "I shaped you to serve," he said, "not to rule." "You shaped me to obey," I replied. "I learned how to choose elsewhere." He regarded me for a long time, then inclined his head. It was the closest he ever came to apology. When he died, the court mourned formally. I mourned privately. There are griefs that do not announce themselves. As for her, news came indirectly. She had reached the coast safely. She had not taken the dowry offered. She had not married quickly, as many expected. She lived quietly, by choice or necessity. I could not know. I did not write to her, not because I did not want to, but because words would have reopened wounds without offering remedy. I had chosen a path that excluded her. To pretend otherwise would have been another cruelty. Still, some evenings, when the light fell just so in the inner garden, I remembered her laughter by the fountain, the way joy had once surprised me, the way it had felt almost illicit. That memory was both comfort and punishment. The people never stopped speculating. Some believed I would one day reclaim authority. Others whispered that I had been cheated of my destiny. Songs were rewritten, stories refined. I corrected none of them. Legacy, I learned, belongs less to those who live it than to those who survive it. I took on fewer duties, advisory roles, temporary missions, tasks that required trust but not command. It was not exile. It was containment, self-imposed. There were moments of lightness, a shared joke with a guard, a child bowing too deeply and laughing at herself, small kindnesses that reminded me the realm was more than its crown. But the joy was muted, tempered by awareness. Power had marked me, not as ruler, but as someone who had seen behind the curtain and could never again pretend it was only fabric and rope. I understood now how easily love is sacrificed to order, how readily guilt becomes justification. The crown had never been meant to be mine. That truth, once a comfort, had become something heavier, because I had learned how close it had come, because I had learned how easily bloodline bends when fear sharpens it. The cost of power is not always paid in blood. Sometimes it is paid in distance, in the quiet understanding that certain futures are no longer available to you, not because they were forbidden, but because you surrendered them willingly. I had saved the realm. I had lost the life I might have lived. Both statements were true, neither offered consolation. And so I remained where history placed me, between shadow and light, remembered but not crowned, essential but never central. A man shaped by a throne he never sat upon. Time does not soften memory, it clarifies it. Years passed, marked not by ceremonies but by absences. I aged quietly, my name still spoken with respect, sometimes with curiosity, occasionally with regret that did not belong to those who voiced it. I became a fixed figure at the edge of the court, a constant reminder of a crisis survived. My brother ruled well. That knowledge mattered to me more than I ever admitted. He listened more than our father had. He distrusted counsels instinctively. When he spoke of legacy, it was not with reverence but caution. In that, perhaps, I had influenced him after all. We were never again as we once were. But we were honest. One evening, years after the war, we stood together on the battlements where I had once watched the city prepare for siege. The lights below were steady now, unafraid. "You could have been remembered as king," he said. "I am remembered as something else," I replied. He nodded. "Yes, and that may last longer." Legacy is a strange inheritance. It does not always follow blood. When I was older, a letter reached me at last. No seal, no title, just my name, written plainly. She wrote from a place far from the court, where the sea shaped the days and no one cared who one had been. Her words were measured, neither bitter nor hopeful. She spoke of a life built slowly, of quiet contentment, of scars that no longer ruled her. She did not ask anything of me. That, more than anger would have, undid me. I wrote back only once. I did not speak of love. I did not speak of regret. I thanked her for surviving me. I wished her joy unobserved. I never knew if she found it. When my hair had gone fully silver, a young courtier asked me a question I had never allowed myself to answer aloud. "Do you regret refusing the crown?" I considered him carefully. His ambition was not cruel, only untested. "No," I said, "but I regret learning how easily I could have taken it." That truth startled him. It should have. The crown was never supposed to be mine, not by birth, not by law, perhaps not even by temperament. Yet for a time it had shaped my every breath. What I learned is this: power does not corrupt by force, it persuades, it offers justification, it tells you that your guilt is proof of virtue, that your sacrifice excuses the damage you cause. Legacy is not the stories sung in halls. It is the quiet decisions that do not benefit you, made when no one is watching. Mine was not a legacy of rule, it was a legacy of refusal. I refused to let blood become permission for murder. I refused to let love become collateral. I refused to let fear decide who deserved to live. And I paid for that refusal with everything that might have been mine. In the end, that was the only choice that allowed me to remain whole. When I am remembered, it will not be as king, nor even as hero. It will be as the man who stood close enough to the crown to know its weight and stepped away before it crushed what remained of his soul. That is enough. That has always been enough. This was not a tale of victory. It was a tale of restraint. If you understand that difference, you belong here. Subscribe and stand with those who listen to stories meant to endure.